so glad you could join me in the DG workshop today to watch this ugly duckling become a thin-walled beauty. So we're going to put a foot on this bowl, and well, that wasn't a good way to start, was it? You can't really expect a cut to work if you're cutting in reverse. Okay, that's working much better. Now we're going to remove the old foot so that we can establish a new tenon for later. The bottom had a weird shape anyways, and we've got a fair bit of meat here, so we're going to level that out. And then we're going to begin to cut the shoulder here. We start to form the shoulder by using a peeling cut, and then we pull back to make the shoulder wider. We need to create a flat shoulder so that the jaws of our chuck have somewhere to firmly sit. Using the diamond point scraper here because it's got two cutting edges. The inner one allows me to get the surface nice and flat, and then the other edge will allow me to cut a perfect tenon. When the two edges align, I know I've got the right shape. Okay, a quick check here to make sure the face is flat. Now I use the tip and the outer edge of the tool to cut the dovetail. I start the dovetail using the tip, and then I use the outer edge to shape it as I move in. Marking the space I need to leave for my jaws, but also that helps me understand where I'm going to put the foot in. So creating the foot, I start with a few sweeping pull cuts here to kind of create an ogee, and I'm working my way towards that line, and I'm now reducing what I'm taking, trying to take smaller little nibbles of that. Change over and start to shape that initial ogee into the rest of the bowl using some pull cuts. Got the handle low to try to keep it as a shearing cut. I have the real advantage here that this bowl is set up on a vacuum chuck at this point, and so I'm able to use a push cut here without the tailstock interfering. If the tailstock was there, I would not be able to have started this cut. I could have cut probably from halfway down, but starting way back there where I created the foot, the tailstock would have just been in the way. So the vacuum chuck really helps here. So now I'm refining that foot and working on that ogee, swinging in and swinging out, trying to pull it right around into the rest of it. Switching over into some quick little shear cuts here and just working on shape, trying to blend everything together. So still working on shape here using some pull cuts, keeping the handle low, trying to keep these shearing. Been kind of ignoring the upper lip, so I've gone back here to a push cut and just giving it a little attention. Okay, stopped there momentarily and took a look, see how we were doing. Decided I didn't like the foot. It wasn't deep enough, so I'm going back here with a shearing cut, and I'm rotating one way and then the other. And now I'm just trying to bring this through around the side of the bowl to bring everything together. And so now I'm making some more pulling cuts very gently here, just trying to blend it all together and making sure that foot's deep enough. Making fine little cuts here, just barely on the surface, and blending things together. The other gouge had started to get dull, so I reached for a new gouge. This one happens to be sharpened at 45 degrees, and I'm just going to use it to refine the cuts here. At this point, I am worried about trying to control any tear out and get the shape just the way I want. And so I'm trying to be very light here. I'm trying to be shearing. So I'm getting some really nice little cuts coming off here. Working my way around the edge, blending everything together. Now, definitely sped up here. I'm definitely not cutting that fast. Notice where the handle is. It's way low. Working on trying to create that continuous curve, get rid of any bumps in the outside. So just coming along here very, very gently. So now that I've got the outside, the basic shape, and most of the tear out dealt with, I'm going to switch over to John Jordan's double-ended shear scraper. And you can use this on the tool rest, or you can hand hold it. Here I just chose to hand hold it so I could try to go all the way around in one motion. I'm both trying to clean up tear out, marking a little bit of tear out there, and going back and dealing with it, but I'm also watching the overall shape, and I'm just using this to refine it. I've stopped and sharpened it a couple times here to make sure that I've always got a nice burr, working through it and looking towards that final shape, getting that nice cut on those fibers. Okay, that's looking pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. So yeah, give it a quick sand here. And with the exception that I stop at one point here and deal with a little tear out I couldn't get at. Remember, this is a hollow bowl I'm already returning. So the rule of not going back to the rim, I couldn't abide by. And so there was already some movement. So there was some spot I couldn't get into. So with the outside finish now, it's about time to pull this off of the vacuum chuck and turn it around and mount it up on a regular chuck. So removing the vacuum chuck here, and you saw me loosen the set screw. I always use the set screws all the time because you never know when I'm going to turn in reverse for some reason. And as you saw at the beginning, I must have finished by turning in reverse before. So I'm starting by dealing with the rim, following the rule that you don't go back up afterwards. I'm going to do the rim now so that I don't have any concerns about having to come back to this later. Trying to get a nice finish on the rim here with no tear out by making some very fine cuts here at the end. That's looking like it's coming along nicely. So my strategy here is to make a few passes to get the entire thickness even, not thin, but even. And then based on that, I can go down in steps. So each step is not too far down because you get into trouble trying to come back up when you've already thinned an area because it'll begin to flex. So making those first cuts, trying to bring the wall thickness down so it's even. Gone through before with the feeler and identified where it was thick and thin and trying to follow that, work my way all the way down. Use a little mental memory here on where I had to cut deeper and where I had to cut shallower. So adding a line here, because I know below that I don't want to get any thinner, but I still want to even it up above that. So I'm trying to make a push cut here and come out just at that line cleanly. I don't want to take more meat off below that line right now. And it looks like I was successful, and then going back and reducing that just a little bit more. Very light cut coming through here, not a deep cut. Lost the cut there, going back and pick it up and trying to make sure I come out here at the line. Coming back here and checking that I've got an even thickness all the way down, and I do now. So now I'm working on making the first part thin. I still have a fair bit of meat here, but as I take wood off here, it's going to start to get thin. So I've had to bring my hand around the outside for additional support to make sure I deal with any chatter. It's not thick enough that it's not moving, so there is some movement going on. And so I'm making kind of my first cut, trying to reduce the thickness here. So I'm not going to go past where that first cut is really ending. And we're bringing down the thickness. So now I'm going to switch to undercutting that, and I'm using my finger on my other hand to hold the back of the bowl to reduce vibrations here. And so I am curving that tool in, making a sweeping arc and trying to come back out, and trying to come back out evenly here and end where that first step is. Okay, so now I'm going to move on. And I'm hopefully not going back up to that first part, but I'm going to do the next part down. And so I'm picking up the cut from where I left off, and now I'm advancing that further down. So the upper edge of the bowl is now flexing and it's moving, so it'd be dangerous to go back up top. And we're working on our second. I'm picking up this second cut again from kind of midway down, and I don't want to go all the way back to the rim because that's moving around. And I'm thinning it here in the second step. Now I'm trying to do a very light cut here. This is going to probably be one of my final cuts going here at the second level. And I'm trying to merge that first level into the second. So I am going to go back here with a negative rake scraper, and I'm going to try to deal with that transition. Taking any little bumps out of that transition. probably coming too far back up here. Using a paper towel to help me apply some firm pressure to the back of that, because there definitely was movement here and I needed to support this to eliminate the movement. Without the paper towel and my finger at the back there providing strong support, this wouldn't have worked. Okay, this is the hazard of joining me in my workshop. Forgot to plug the camera in and the battery went dead. So let's recap what you missed. So I'd already cut the first 2 steps, but you missed where I went down the next inch and made it thin. Then I blended that with the previous part that I'd already done. Then I cut the remainder to the center and I blended that with the 3rd step that I'd done. And the last key takeaway is don't go back up to the edge. That edge is flexing now that we've removed all the wood down the side. So we are doing some sanding here. Even if it was perfect, I was going to sand, but there was some end grain marks that were left that couldn't get at because the edge was flexing. So even when I was using the negative rake scraper, I couldn't get in there because the bowl was moving away from me. So you'll notice I do stop the lathe here and I power sand those spots, and then I start it up again and I sand those out. In the end, all look good. So things are coming along nicely here. I've popped the bowl off the chuck and I've reversed it now using the Oneway vacuum hub as a jam chuck here, because I am going to use the vacuum chuck later. So I've switched over to using a 1/2 inch bowl gouge, and I am nibbling away at the tenon we created, because we're going to head towards putting the foot on this bowl. And so using a few pull cuts after using peeling cuts, I want to get that bottom reasonably flat. So I've switched on the vacuum, and now I've switched over to a little spindle gouge. And I'm being careful here because we are only being held on with the vacuum. So using the spindle gouge, and I'm just taking away some of the center meat. Ultimately, I want to create a flat bottom in the middle here with a square-edged foot. And so I'm going to nibble some of this material out first. So now I'm using a slim parting tool, and I'm going to cut down to the depth I desire on my square-edged foot. And now I've reversed the lathe so I can actually cut away from me and get into that the area I cut with the parting tool. So I'm cutting first from close to it, and then I'm working more from the middle. Once I've got that out, I'm going to make sure it's nice and flat. So I've switched over to a negative rake scraper with a flat edge on it, and I am going to just clean up the center of that and make sure it's perfectly flat and clean. So some quick sanding here, run through all the grits. Nothing amazing about this. Just going to run through the grits, changing as I go. You don't see me bringing out the air pressure hose and blowing the dust away, but that's done at each level. So then I switched over to Yorkshire grit, which I use on all my bowls, and apply it. Run the lathe at 300 RPM, rub it in, the material breaks down and sands it fine. And then I switch over to a clean paper cloth, run the lathe at 500 RPM, and I keep buffing it out until no more residue is coming off, reversing the paper towel repeatedly over and over until I have a clean towel. Gives it a really excellent final finish. So we can stop the lathe now and then turn off the vacuum so that we can get the bowl off. And it's been released, and yeah, clean up the inside from any moisture that got sucked through. Yeah, that is looking very nice. Very nice indeed, I think. Take a look at the other side here. Yeah, and there it is. So glad you could join me today in the GG workshop. I hope to see you back sometime in the future. Remember to like and subscribe. Thank you.